It was a morning stitched together from metal, gasoline, and anticipation. The kind of morning that could be felt in the bones of men who had learned to read the world in the hum of engines and the glint of steel. The flight line was alive before the sun had fully risen. Rows of P-51 Mustangs reflecting the soft golden light like liquid metal. Men in coveralls moved with quiet precision among the machines, their hands already smelling of oil, grease, and the faint tang of fuel. Each movement was purposeful, tightening a cable here, checking a rivet there, adjusting a trim tab with meticulous care. To the untrained eye, it was routine, but routine in a war where lives hung in the balance was anything but ordinary. The P-51 Mustang had earned its legend long before the adjustments began. Sleek, aerodynamic, with a laminar flow wing designed for minimal drag, and the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine that sang with the power of a storm, it was built to dominate the skies. Its range allowed it to escort bombers deep into enemy territory. Its speed let it chase down most threats, and its firepower gave it the ability to control the engagement. Yet every advantage carried a hidden compromise. The very wings that allowed blistering speed could, in close combat, make the plane less responsive in tight turns. Pilots noticed, sometimes with deadly consequences, that the Mustang demanded respect and subtlety when the fight closed in. Dogfights were a ballet of chaos. Tracers carved streaks through the air, engines roared, and aircraft danced in 3 dimensions, twisting and diving in a deadly rhythm. For pilots, it was an exercise in precision, courage, and intuition. Speed alone could not guarantee survival. Maneuverability, the ability to anticipate and respond instantly, often meant the difference between life and death. And in that crucible, the Mustang occasionally showed hesitation. Pilots reported extra back pressure on the stick during tight turns, a sluggishness that could leave them exposed to enemy fire.
Back on the ground, the men of the flight crew were quietly absorbing these observations. Mechanics, riggers, and ground personnel had an intimate understanding of the machines they maintained. They watched, listened, measured, and theorized. Every control cable, every surface, every rivet was a potential point of refinement. It was not glory they sought, it was precision, reliability, and the satisfaction of knowing that their hands directly affected the survival of the men in the air. And in this quiet vigilance, one of them noticed a recurring theme. Mustangs performed brilliantly in straight lines, climbs, and dives. Yet when it came to sustained tight turns, they seemed reluctant, requiring more effort from the pilot to maintain a bank and hold a line. The solution was subtle, almost invisible. The fix lay in the trim tabs, tiny surfaces attached to the trailing edges of control surfaces like the elevator and ailerons, barely noticeable to the casual observer. Their function is elegant in its simplicity: to relieve the pilot of constant pressure, to fine-tune the aircraft's balance, and to subtly influence how the plane reacts in flight. A minor adjustment of a few degrees could turn hesitation into precision, struggle into instinctive response. The ground crew, with painstaking care, examined the rigging, measured tension in the cables, and adjusted the trim tabs to create a slight nose-up bias in the early stages of a turn. The change was imperceptible to anyone looking from the ground, but transformational in the air. When the first pilots flew with the adjusted trim, the difference was immediate. The Mustang responded with a lightness that felt almost alive, a cooperative partner rather than a demanding machine. Turns were tighter, smoother, and required less effort, a crucial advantage when seconds and inches were the currency of survival. Word spread quickly through the squadron. "Fly Mustang number 3. Jenkins adjusted the trim. She handles like a fox in a henhouse." And so began a quiet revolution in the air.
This was not a single act of heroism, but a symphony of observation, measurement, and subtle ingenuity. Each pilot's feedback, a comment on roll responsiveness, nose behavior in a bank, stall tendencies, was analyzed, debated, and translated into precise mechanical adjustments. The crew's work required patience, a deep understanding of aerodynamics, and an unwavering commitment to detail. It involved repeated checks, calibrations to the thousandth of an inch, and careful coordination. Theirs was a labor that demanded rigor, yet its rewards were unseen by all except those who experienced the effect firsthand in the air. The implications were profound. Dogfights evolved. Maneuvers that had once been dangerous or inefficient could now be executed with confidence. Pilots could maintain tight turns without risking stalls or losing energy, giving them the ability to dictate engagements rather than merely respond. Enemy pilots, accustomed to exploiting the Mustang's minor limitations, found themselves unexpectedly challenged, forced to adjust tactics on the fly. The small adjustment on the ground had created a cascade of advantages in the sky. Beyond the mechanical improvement, the story illustrates the subtle interplay between human skill and machine capability. Pilots became attuned to the new responsiveness of their planes, training instincts to exploit every fraction of agility. Each sortie was both a test and a confirmation of the ground crew's work. The Mustang, in effect, had become a different aircraft in the hands of skilled pilots, faster to respond, more cooperative, more lethal. The margin of error had shifted in favor of the Americans, quietly yet decisively.
The narrative of the trim adjustment also highlights the unseen labor of war. The ground crew's diligence, often overlooked in the broader sweep of history, directly influenced the survival and effectiveness of pilots. They were craftsmen, improvisers, and engineers working without recognition, yet their meticulous work changed outcomes in ways that no report or manual could capture. This tiny adjustment, invisible to outsiders, embodied a truth that runs through all technological warfare. The smallest, most precise interventions can yield extraordinary results. The human dimension was inseparable from the mechanical. Pilots relied on instincts shaped by experience, but those instincts had to be supported by machines that responded predictably and favorably. Every turn, dive, climb, and maneuver became an intricate dance between pilot and aircraft, mediated by the unseen hands of the mechanics. Trust in machinery was trust in the careful, knowledgeable work of those who maintained it, and in high-stakes aerial combat, trust could mean life or death. The Mustang's enhanced turn capability also had tactical and strategic consequences. Squadrons could employ new formations, engage enemies on terms previously unavailable, and maximize the effectiveness of bomber escort missions. A plane that could now fight effectively in both vertical and horizontal planes altered the calculus of combat, giving American pilots greater flexibility, confidence, and options. Where once boom and zoom was the only reliable tactic, now controlled turns became a viable offensive strategy, reshaping the aerial battles over Europe. This story does not end with the adjustment itself. It extends into the daily rhythm of life on the airfield. Pre-flight checks, engine inspections, calibrations, debriefings, and the quiet camaraderie of men united by a shared responsibility. Pilots and mechanics lived intertwined existences, the fate of one inseparable from the diligence of the other. Every mission flown with confidence was a testament to this collaboration. Every maneuver executed flawlessly, a silent acknowledgement of the unseen labor that made it possible. In the larger context, the adjustment exemplifies a broader principle. History often turns on minor details, on the unnoticed ingenuity of those who operate behind the scenes. Victory is rarely just a product of strategy and brute force. It is also the accumulation of countless small acts of care, observation, and expertise. The trim adjustment on a single P-51 Mustang is a microcosm of this truth, a minor, almost invisible act with monumental consequences. As the Mustangs continued to patrol the skies, escort bombers, and engage enemy aircraft, their behavior reflected the subtle genius of those who maintained them.
Pilots adapted, tactics evolved, and the very shape of aerial combat shifted, all because a few degrees of trim were altered by a crew who understood that perfection often lies in the margins. And while the story may have gone unrecorded in official histories, whispered only among those who witnessed its effects, its impact was undeniable. The Mustang became not only a symbol of American air power, but also a testament to the quiet, persistent ingenuity of those who served on the ground, shaping the fate of men and machines alike.
When a veteran recounted the tale decades later, he would gesture toward nothing and simply say, "It was the trim job." To the casual observer, it sounded mundane, but for those who had flown and fought, who had felt the difference in the air and seen the deadly consequences of hesitation eliminated, it was a revelation. A nearly invisible intervention had transformed a formidable fighter into a lethal turn fighter, a machine whose agility and responsiveness owed as much to the careful hands on the ground as to the courage of those in the cockpit. And so the Mustangs continued their flights, cutting across the European sky with precision, speed, and now unmatched maneuverability. The story of a tiny trim adjustment, seemingly insignificant, became a quiet legend, a reminder that even in the vast, destructive theater of war, human ingenuity, attention to detail, and relentless care could alter history. That small adjustment turned an already extraordinary aircraft into something more, a plane that could not only survive, but dominate, a plane that embodied the perfect synergy of human skill and mechanical brilliance, a plane that in the hands of the right pilot became a deadly turn fighter.